everybody goes, it's all about the business is all about relationships. And
Mhm.
I always correct everybody and I go, business is all about results,
Yeah,
right? So if you provide somebody, me being a service provider to people, if I provide you consistent results, what we build from that is a relationship,
yeah,
right? But I don't want
yep.
somebody paying me because we have a relationship. I want them paying me because of the results that I generate for them.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching if that's the case. We've got a great guest today, Joe Ingram from beautiful sunny Southern California. So first of all, Joe, thanks for joining us. I've been looking at your history, your background. It's pretty impressive. So we're just really glad we have you on the show today. So a big thank you goes out right off the bat.
No, absolutely, Gary. Honored to be part of it. I am impressed that you can say massive passive cash flow podcast so quickly because
Yeah, in one
it
breath.
definitely takes brain power on my side.
Yep. So, well, I appreciate you doing this tonight. What's interesting is, and we were just talking about this, the we're going to talk about today, really marketing, positioning yourself, messaging, things like that, guys. But I want you to understand, I've been in multiple industries myself, and so has Joe. The key is here, the fundamentals are always the same. The market may change, the economy may change, the product or service may change. But there's certain fundamentals that you have to really nail. And one of them is I call direct communication. We call that level one marketing with level one people. That's your direct communication in person or on phone with your category one people, which are the people you know and love the most, and vice versa. And then from there we go out to level two and three and so forth. That's just my own diagram, virtual diagram, if you will, Joe. But if you wouldn't mind, take us back, Joe, to an earlier date. Um, what industry were you in, and what kind of led you to this? Was there a pivotal moment? Was there an aha moment? And were you able to really develop your own style and your own thing before you launched what you have right now?
Yeah, so I'm an electrical engineer by degree. So of course that means I'm the sales genius. It just automatically works that way, right?
Yeah.
But I noted off really early working aerospace manufacturing that my personality was larger than most people who shared the title that I had. And my management was very quick to point that out. Right. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm helping everybody. They're like, you're too loud. You just stop. So I escalated very quickly into management and adapting the people skills that I had grown up with my dad, who owned his own business. So he was a small business owner, owned gas stations, and we dealt with people all the time. So I was pumping gas at the age of 7, right, up until I graduated college to
Uh,
go be an engineer. So I was always dirty, always there, but always dealing one on one with people. And
yeah.
so for me, it became very easy just watching, right? And it's one of those topics where it's called edutainment. I didn't know about it, but a friend of mine is an actor in Hollywood, and we did a
Yeah.
virtual meeting one day, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Joe, you were like the personification of the word edutainment." And I'm like, "Wow, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I have no idea what that means, but sure."
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He goes, "You combine education and entertainment." So
Yeah.
when I left aerospace manufacturing, I went to go work at a criminal defense law firm. And that
Mhm.
was where I got my first taste of commission, where before that, it was however long you worked there was how much money you made based on what
Yeah.
level you qualified for. And so when I went to the law firm, we built an inside call center.
Yeah.
We had an outside sales team already, but the outside sales team was trying to take inbound calls from all of the advertising and drive to go meet clients and schedule it. So a lot of things were being dropped. So I got tasked with building it, even though I had never worked in a call center before. So
Mhm.
it was just, hit the ground
Yeah.
running, go through. Um, that was where I got the taste because the owner had told me, based on everything I've seen in your resume and what you do, you know how to build teams, and that's what we want. I need an
Yeah.
inside team that will work well with the outside team and go forward. So I was inside, there was an outside VP of sales, and together our job was to grow the business. And
Yeah.
the owner told me, guess what? I'm going to guarantee your salary, which was the mindset that I had before, right? Was just give me a bigger salary. And he goes, I'm going to give you a taste of salary and the commission piece, which is a lower base with this. And I was like, okay, whatever. And that first month, I almost doubled what my salary was with my
Nice.
team. And I was like, oh, I never want to look back at salary again. The answer is pay me for what makes it what I do, which is when you work
Yeah.
in corporate, right? You don't get that where you can outperform everybody, but as long as they're doing enough to just not get fired, you can all be at the
Yeah.
same pay scale. And so
Yeah.
that was where the aha moment came on, which is there's a way to get paid for what you're worth. And it was that ugly,
Yeah.
scary word called sales, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh no, that's it's sales. But moving from the law firm where I was not an attorney, I was running their sales team, right?
Hmm.
I took them in 3 months from 300 grand to $1 million a month. And
Yeah.
we built it up from there. Went from 2 states to 9 states over 2 years. When I left,
Nice.
and when I left, I went into automotive, which is socially acceptable, right?
Hmm.
Two rungs on the socially acceptable ladder scale better than an attorney was car sales,
Yeah.
right? So
That's
I was like,
hilarious.
well, I
Yeah.
am still technically moving on up in the eyes of the public. But that's
Yeah.
where so that's when I got there. And then I realized processes from my engineering
Yeah.
background, right? And the personality stuff to get people on board is where it really
Yeah.
took off for me. And it took me
Yeah.
just a couple years to revolutionize the locations I was working at and to
Yeah.
see massive growth. And
Yeah.
so when I got in, the average dealership was selling 89 cars a month across the nation. And I took one of the ones I was working at to 1,000 cars a month.
Yeah. That's
So it,
incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was way more than 10x Grant Cardone. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
There you
but
go.
that's what we looked at. And so to me, I was like, wow, this is great. And I stayed in automotive for 20 years
Yeah.
just because it was, again, so fun, so immediate gratification and going through
Yeah.
and building and pushing. And that's when I
Yeah.
realized, man, I love sales, but the sales was the same at the, like you had pointed out earlier, Gary, same things I was going through in the actual criminal defense law firm, but it was the same things that was at the gas station when I grew up,
Right.
right? And things like that. And
Yeah.
I always tell people, everybody goes, it's all about the business is all about relationships. And
Hmm.
I always correct everybody and I go, business is all about results,
Yeah.
right? So if you provide somebody, me being a service provider to people, if I provide you consistent results, what we build from that is a relationship,
Yeah.
right? But I don't want
Yep.
somebody paying me because we have a relationship. I want them paying me because of the results that I generate for them. And
Yeah.
that's my mindset and how it's always been. So regardless of the industries that I'm training now, right? I do financial services, I have real estate and mortgage people, I have dentists, chiropractors, I have software
Yeah.
companies, video gaming companies, right? All of these people I have, and we go in and I start the same way. I go, come on, guys, it's sales. Like, listen, believe, and buy.
Right.
Okay. Make
Yeah.
make it as basic as you can, right? And that's
Yeah.
what I look at.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a lot to unpack here, and there's so many coincidences too. One of them, by the way, just comically, I'll address this is when it comes to car sales. It depends where you are on the social scale. It depends on what kind of car you're selling and where you're selling it. So if you're selling nice cars in Southern California, dude, you're up closer to a 10. So
Right.
that's that's kind of a big thing. If you got a nice convertible, I mean, let's face it, California having a convertible is like having the view of the Pacific Ocean. I mean, that's kind
Oh
of
yeah. Your
important.
identity is
So
50% what you drive in California.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
but what's cool about this is your background. I can't tell you how many people I interview, Joe, that have a technical background. Like mine was computer science. Yours is engineering. And by the way, I worked at NASA, my first job,
Wow.
Langley Air Force Base. Yeah. So we were on the space shuttle project. But what's interesting, I want everybody listening to really pay attention to this. I'm not saying you have to be an engineer to do well in sales. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm suggesting is this though. Joe probably found out the same thing I did. When I got into real estate, I got into real estate sales because I was an investor and I was frustrated that most agents weren't trained to work with me. And when I got into it, I realized how literally chaotic the industry was. It just wasn't well organized. It wasn't well structured. Even if it was, the agents themselves were just running around. And you guys, you know what it's like because I have a large team of agents in 38 states. It's like you're running around with a chicken with a head cut off. You are a slave to the phone and the email and the text and everything. It doesn't have to be that way. I know why you're that way. I understand it. I'm just telling you, listen to someone like Joe because he's been able to help grow and develop sales teams in multiple industries. Remember, the fundamentals are always the same. And look
Mhm.
at what he did with the one auto dealership. I mean, that's just phenomenal to grow greater than 10x. So, Joe, let's kind of unpack this a little bit. Any product or service, you're serving a client, so the relationship should be the paramount thing, the driver. And you actually mentioned that. But when it comes to the actual sales cycle, where do you see people usually failing or quite simply can make some improvements? Is it in their relationship development? Kind of if you could unpack that a little bit, particularly for the newer folks, because they need to hear this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care.
So the biggest and the first step in my 4 steps when I'm going to sales is like. Okay. And so the answer is like, here's what I want to qualify this because I tackle things differently than most, right? If I see everybody walks down this path, I'm going the other way just for spite. Okay. And I don't care if it's harder, I'll forge my way. But I believe when you look at it, the first step is like, which means there has to be some kind of commonality. But I'm
Mhm.
not the guy who says, go search their profile, find out they own a dog, and then call them and make dog barking noises in the background so you can pretend you have one too.
Yeah.
Right. And so I look at it, and for one of the things I teach everybody is whatever product or service you have and whatever company they have, if there's a need, that's what we have in common. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm going to use. It's not that I'm going to call you and try to become a friend about fishing or about the fact that you've got 16 exotic cars. That's
Mhm.
that's not what I'm looking for. And too many people miss that. And they go for
Yeah.
that fake rapport that's there and then realize they
Yeah.
get nowhere after that because right when my steps it goes like then it goes to listen, so there has to
Yeah.
be some element of like, and I'm okay if it just means they don't dislike me, right?
Right.
Because again, most people go, oh, we go for customer satisfaction. I'm like, well, satisfaction just means I don't like or dislike. I'm
Mhm.
neutral. So again, I'm okay to start at neutral. I don't want to start by being over the top with someone who's very mellow and right reserved. Then you're going to break the like. They're not going to say one day, you know what, I should give all my money to this person because they're loud and obnoxious. They're not. Right. And you had
Right.
mentioned it before. You run around like a chicken with your head cut off because people only learn half of their job. Right. I either learn the technical side of my job, which is
Yeah.
the steps, filling out all the forms, making sure everything gets done right. Or let me go sell everything and I become somebody more obnoxious that can't find the details to save their life, right? And
Yeah.
end up dumping it on somebody at the next stage who has to try to make sure all the T's get crossed and the I's get dotted. And
Yeah.
so I look at it and say, go in there, assume rapport. That's one of the things I teach. Just assume your friends. They'll catch
Okay.
you if you don't. Right. And I don't mean
Right.
go in and start cussing at people and doing things. I got to clarify that for the new people.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
go in there and already assume that that person is an acquaintance of yours, someone that's already a friend, not
Yeah.
necessarily your best friend, but someone that you already have familiarity with. So when you go into that call, you talk to them differently than you do with a sales pitch, and you
Right.
go on. And that will help you with the like because you already assume there's like. And
Yeah.
that's going to help them to relax and talk to you. One of the things I always explain to people is I never ask, how can I help you? Because that requires them to evaluate me
Yeah.
based on their needs. So you literally
Right.
call me and go, so, hey, you do this, I do this. How can I help you? And now the
Yeah.
person goes, okay, so you just called me to
Yeah.
make me work on this call as
Yeah.
opposed to me calling. So I always tell people, I'm completely happy to help you with that, whatever it is we start talking about. And I'll go, oh, I can help with that. I can help with that so that I retain myself as the expertise when I go into
Yeah.
it. And so to me, that's what I look at and go, we always mess it up in the beginning and we
Right.
never get past that point. Right. We get in there and we call and
Yeah.
we talk to the person and you sound like a drip, right? Energy has to be there. And if you've never talked to the person or saw a video on that person that you're cold calling or prospecting,
Yeah.
then you need to be able to adapt. I always start high and then match really quick to the person. And as I
Yeah.
talk, and like I had pointed out earlier, Gary,
Yeah.
I go, I look just like Brad Pitt over the phone. So if those of you on the
Yeah.
listen only part of the show, right, then I'm just picture Brad Pitt. That'll help you.
Yeah.
But in real life, it's
Mm.
not the same way. But
Yeah.
I look at it and say your identity over the phone through text and email can be whatever you need it to be. And I choose to make it what the prospect needs me to be to feel comfortable buying. And I think
Yeah.
too many people have that ego, right? And I'm going to tell you right now, that's edging gross out. That's what ego stands for. So you're
Yeah.
going to go in there and try to be you and only you. You're going to match with at most 20% of the people that you're talking to. And then you're going to think you're a superstar for those 20% because those are the ones you're like, man, it didn't even feel like I was selling anything. It just
Yeah.
went like that. And the person's like, it was so easy to buy. Well, I can't live on 20%.
Right.
I need
Yeah.
to adapt my personality to whoever I'm talking to so I can get to the 50s, to the 75s, right? To the 80% and flip the paradigm from just being me and hoping I can get that.
Yeah.
I
It's
know,
funny
long
as you were.
answer, but yeah.
No, that's okay. I know we got two more. You mentioned there are four steps in them. I got like and listen, but you reminded me of a couple of phone calls I've had with people. One of them was recently where I just couldn't read them. I mean, they weren't giving up any indication of, if they were happy, sad, angry, glad, whatever. And it was just blank. I'd ask them an open-ended question, and I get like, well, not really. That kind of thing. I'm like, well, what out? But then sometimes we're the ones at the end who say, how do I sign up? I really like this. Where do I go? They go, really? Okay. So,
Right.
but but back to the four. So you mentioned there's four steps. I wrote down like and listen.
Mhm.
Um, so take us from there if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
So once I establish some element of like, I start to listen. And if you think
Mm-hmm.
about this, this is every friendship. If you're married, it's your how you got
Mm-hmm.
with your spouse, everything else. You sat down, there was some element of like that caused you to listen to what they're saying. And you bounce
Mm-hmm.
between like listen to the point where they've said enough things that resonate as true with you that you
Mm-hmm.
say, now I can believe them without doing the fact checker game, right, of
Yeah.
what they're saying. So you go like, listen, then believe. And once they get to the point of believing, then
Yeah.
they have the option to buy a product or service or buy into the friendship or buy into
Okay.
that, right? And that's where how things move forward at that point. And until they break trust at any point afterwards, it sticks. And
Yeah.
so that's where I go like, listen, believe, and buy. And so if you have that set up as you're calling into people and into looking into who you're going to talk to, right? Again, I like to
Yeah.
prospect on LinkedIn. I go prospect on LinkedIn, but I copy the actual profile page of an individual, put it into Chat GPT, run it through a personality filter, and bring it
Yeah.
back so I can see, is it someone that I could click with on my own, or is it someone that I have to have a conscious effort moving forward to adapt to their style?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. LinkedIn, well, I mean, I've been on it for years, as long as they've been around, but it really wasn't until probably within the last year I started getting a lot of traction with them. And maybe I wasn't doing it right. I don't know, but we're really getting a lot more um, communication, a lot more relationships built and nurturing through LinkedIn now than ever before. They must have, I don't know if they changed their algorithm or maybe I've
I
just been
think
around
it's
long enough. I've
probably
got enough
because
people.
you're not sending out the typical out of the can misspelled or someone else's name in the subject line
Oh,
when they go send it. Because again,
yeah.
the number of people out prospecting on LinkedIn has quadrupled over the last 3 years. And so
Okay.
your DMs coming in are all people soliciting. But what I notice is people are soliciting with their scheduling link in it, and they're like, "Hi, so happy to connect." Right? I figure we could jump on a call and see how we can help each other. And they put a Calendly link in. And I'm like, wow, you just literally said hi and asked me on a date. I
Yeah.
don't even, we haven't even talked. There wasn't even, let's grab
Right.
coffee. Right. And so I think
Oh,
when
yeah.
you go out genuinely and contact somebody that is somebody that's your ideal prospect, that's when I see that everybody responds more to the authenticity
Right.
than they have before. And even with
Yeah.
AI today, you can write the messaging and the structures to be more authentic as opposed to out of the can and ignore whatever they just replied and send your next message kind of
Yeah.
process.
It's interesting you said that because we actually did make a giant transition in our messaging, and it became we just stopped doing all the mass market stuff. I mean, well, we do postings just like everybody, but really the communication now is a lot more level one client, level one communication, and we're getting much better results. And the funny thing is I looked at some of our posts, like we do stuff on there's something called Workplace, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Facebook version for businesses, So, but they're very personal. Instead of me saying, "Hey, I know what it's like out there. Everybody needs leads today. We got this great lead generating system. I think you should check it out and click here to go watch a video." We stopped doing that. What I'm saying now is, you know, and I actually do it on a first name basis. If unless it's totally impossible to do that, I'll just say, "Hey, I think I have a way for us to work together without you making a major wholesale change in your business and switching companies and all this kind of stuff. It's a platform I use for my team. It's extremely successful. Here's our number of sales this year. Check this out. If would you like to learn more? I'm happy to share with you. It's a major part of our team's success." That's all I'm saying. When they say, "Yes, I want to know more," and by the way, and I still don't use the Calendly link because I know if I do that, I just gave them control the next
Yeah.
step. So if I just say, "Look, can you be free tomorrow at 1 or Wednesday at 2?" Don't give them 5,000 options. Just give them, the implication is they're going to choose one or the other. So
Mm-hmm.
just give them two, maximum three. And I'm telling you, our conversion rate is going way, way up. I mean, it's a little more work up front, but it's less work down the road,
It's
you
a
know?
quality lead though, right? It's not
Absolutely.
the, hey, do you have a minute? Right. And you go, look how many responses I got. Right. You're like,
Yep.
yeah, that was a response, but it wasn't anybody that we didn't qualify anybody to get that response. We just found someone with a
Right.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So what I want to do now is we've got probably another, 10 minutes or so. I want to talk about leadership because you've been able to take what you've learned, Joe, as an individual, and then you know uh, sort of encapsulate it and articulate it in a way that helps other people. So you've now got a team, you've got a business you're running, you're helping other teams, other businesses who have teams. So if we could touch on leadership a little bit, um, what are some of the you know, like maybe what's a process driven strategy, one of your favorite ones. And then if you can kind of lead into something I read called the leadership triad, and it really goes from selling yourself to your selling your company, your goals to drive success. That's where the second question. Their first one though is strategically, what shifts in a person's heart and mind when they go from being a solo individual person in sales to leading a team? Because it's a different set of skills you got to learn. I'm guessing, right?
100%. And too often,
Yeah.
and I saw that in automotive way too much, that
Mm-hmm.
because you're good at sales, I'm now going to say, ooh, if I can get you to manage a team, then you'll
Mm-hmm.
touch seven people's opportunities and do more. The problem is nobody invested in you at all as being a leader. Okay.
Right.
So one of the things I suggest to almost every person I talk to is Dan Sullivan's book, Who Not How.
Yep.
Okay. And that's where I look and say, stop. As a leader, it's time to mature your thinking past, I have to do it all myself. And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
complete control freak and a perfectionist, which just means I have a huge to do list that doesn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's not the exact perfect time, or I haven't finished polishing this up and doing it. Right. So when you get to the point of understanding that done is better than perfect, right, then
Yeah.
done will get done much faster. But in the who, not how, is to find the people that
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing what you don't, that takes you too long to do. And
Yeah.
that right there is the first shift in leadership you have to have. Okay.
Yeah.
Going from I'm a great
Mm-hmm.
salesperson means you're really good one on one. It means that
Mm-hmm.
you are really good at generating your own mindset to get the benefit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you're smart, your benefit was for them too. Right. And you
Yeah.
thought win-win. So once I add a team in there, I now
Mm-hmm.
added that third person, because
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
myself leading a team and the customers at the end, but then I got that pesky person in between called my team,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And now I got to consider them and their feelings and who they
Mm-hmm.
are and what's there. And one of the things I'll tell you that almost every leader fails to do is the accountability piece.
Yeah.
Am I holding somebody accountable? Right. My electrical
Mm-hmm.
engineering degree helped me make the most wicked spreadsheets that scare the entire sales department, because they're like, oh my God. I'm like, look, just type the number in. The rest of it does it for you. Right. But
Yeah.
they're like, but it's a big all the numbers, and I'm like, don't worry about it. Find your
Yeah.
line, and that's the one you want to do. But are you tracking the activities that get us the results?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where most people fail. They really do.
Yeah.
They stop and they go, well, I did this. Like, for example, I play with numbers. So I
Mm-hmm.
say an outbound cold call gets answered right now. And this was probably the end of last year, 17% of the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
if you're calling somebody and 17% of the time
Mm-hmm.
answers, and you go through and talk to people and set a demo appointment 2% of those 100 calls, why do you walk into the day thinking you're going to dial 50 calls and set 5 appointments?
Yeah.
Right? Who's setting the expectation for the team correctly? And it's
Yep.
not about the raw side of sales. It's about the tactics that
Yeah.
go with sales. And when you can take it and go, I have a great attitude because I control my attitude. Okay. But I need to
Yep.
do the right steps and do the right things, keep track of information so you can do it. Because I'm one of my slogans that's on my show too is I say, sales is only a numbers game until you become educated.
Yeah.
Right. Once you become educated, it's about conversion and how you can better do things, as opposed to, well, if I need to set 4 appointments, I better do 200 dials. Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 get better at talking to those 17 people that are answer. Or what if you texted them first with your name so that when the phone rang on their side, it said maybe Gary
Yeah.
instead of unknown caller? Right.
Yeah.
That becomes a 41% answer rate.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then
That's
again, when I
awesome.
talk to somebody, I'm matching your energy, right? I'm going to be
Yeah.
matching your terminology. And I think that's where we also mess up a lot. If something really great happens today, Gary, I don't know if great is your word. It's not mine. I would sit back and go, man, the most amazing thing happened today.
Yeah.
So when a prospect tells you, yeah, I like that, the price is a little steep, but I'm going to need a significant discount if you wanted to proceed. I go, well, if anybody could afford to give you a significant discount, it would be me. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't go, I can hook you up with a great discount, because those words
Yeah.
don't mean the same to that person.
Yeah.
And are you trying to actually be who they need you to be to buy from?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, by the way, you mentioned Dan Sullivan's Who Not How, and I was fortunate enough to live up in Toronto for 5 years, and I got to be part of his whatever that next level program was with some pretty big names, people, everyday names people recognize in business. And what a treat. And the guy's interesting in his philosophy. Like, he's planning on living to be 156 years old. And at first sort of I think, really? Is this guy for real? But when you talk to him, there's a reason and a purpose for that, you
Right.
know? So if you
And a
think
plan. Yeah.
exactly in a plan, yeah, I mean, if you're like 80 years old and you're thinking, yeah, what the heck, I might have another 1 or 2 years of good life. That's no way to go through those 1 or 2 years.
Right.
Think of it in terms, I got a lot of gas in the tank, and it works. I mean, I do it today. My number is 126, by the way,
Nice.
126. So
Nice.
still got a ways to go. But in any case, I appreciate you sharing that. But what you just shared was not only important for people who are maybe being asked to or have the desire to move in a leadership position, because leadership is definitely a different set of skills than the thing that you're good at. You could be, and I saw this in banking. They would take the best person in, like I was in a, the IT area. So they would take the best person at software development and problem solving on the operating systems and put him in a manager. I'm like, you just took your lead racehorse out of the race, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And chances are, and this is true, they ended up hating being in management because now they're not dealing with, some intricate problem solving, which is intriguing to them. They're dealing with people coming in with petty little, I shouldn't say it. Please forgive me, guys. I'm not trying to be callous. I literally had
Just
a
say
woman
Joe
come to the
said that.
office one time.
Joe said you were all being petty and whiny. That's what,
Yeah,
yeah. Gary did not
that's right.
say that. Joe said it. Yeah.
That's right. But she came in. We just had a team meeting. She said, "Can I talk to you?" It's a church. I said, "Well, yeah, come on in." She said, "Did you see what happened?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "The team meeting." And I said, I was there, obviously leading the meeting. I don't know. I couldn't imagine what it was." He said, "I brought in a brand new bag of peanuts, Gary, and nobody ate any of my peanuts. I'm telling you, they hate me on this team." And I hope she's not listening to this podcast. But I was like, I mean, what do you do with that one? So, but
Right.
that's the kind of thing that you deal with when you're in leadership. So it really is all about the relationship, and you got to find something about that person that you like. There's got to be something, or she wouldn't be in that position. And then listen, and you might find a solution or an answer. But at the time, I have to admit, I was stumped, and I thought she was pulling my leg at first. And
Right.
I made the mistake of saying, if you need to stick to your day job, was what I said, and she was really offended. So just the point is, guys, is leadership is a different set of skills. You can learn it, you can develop it in yourself, you can develop it in others. So Joe, how can people? I mean, I did a little looking around. I know there's a website, geniuslinks.com.
Yeah. Yep.
There's the other one, that I first one I found, which is ingraminteractive.com. But
Yep.
let's go to the Genius Links one, because that I mean, even the name itself is pretty intriguing. So what can people get there? What's the, and how can they get a hold of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the geniuslinks.com, the whole reason I put that together was I wanted to help self-select whether we need to work together or talk at
Mhm.
all. So I put together this list. I threw out some free products, threw out some samples of trainings and services, things that are out there. Like every place you can find me on the web. There's a little schedule of time. What I'm asking is please go through and look at a couple things, then say, yeah, I could probably tolerate him. I heard him on Gary's podcast, and now
Mhm.
I'm over here looking at this. It sounds right. Then schedule a time. Let's have a conversation, right? And
Yeah.
then we can talk about how to help you in your business. So that to me is
Okay.
the best thing. But Gary, for everybody who's paying attention on their massive passive cash flow podcast, down at the very bottom, I have a secret button that people don't know to look for unless they're
Okay.
on a show, right? Scroll all the way to the very bottom of the Genius Links. When you get down to the very bottom, there's a black button on a black background, and the words are there, barely ghosted out, that says secret stuff. If you click on that, it'll take you to a hidden page on my website, that ingraminteractive.com site. It'll take you there.
Okay.
On there is going to be some forms, sample trainings, where you could literally just download the PDFs and go teach it yourself if you needed to, right? There's ebooks. So I've got ebooks from different authors that are there for you. I've got sample video trainings that talk about how you change your delivery when you go from face to face to over the phone to text, DM, or email, those kind of things. There's stuff in there for you, and it's just trying to be a value add for the people that listen to Massive Passive.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. Everybody's always looking to get an edge, to improve their game, and it's just the way we're wired. If we can tip our toes in the water first and get to know the material and the person behind it, it helps people move forward. So everybody listen, I just want to tell you, um, I always do my research. As you know, we don't just let anybody on the podcast, and Joe's the real deal. Take them up on the offer. Go to the website. It's geniuslinks.com.
The
Look for
Genius.
the secret. Oh,
The
good. I'm
the
sorry.
yes, sorry.
Oh,
The
sorry.
Genius
Thank you very
links.
much.
Yes.
Okay.
They're gonna go there and go, it's
Thegeniuslinks.com.
wrong. Joe lied. Yeah.
That's right. Or Gary did, one of us,
Yes.
but it's there, guys. I have it up right now on my computer, so go check it out. Look for the secret sauce at the bottom, and reach out to Joe. Let him know what you think about the material, and have a conversation. I'm telling you, it works. Everything he's talking about are the fundamentals. These are the natural laws of our business. Whether you're a dentist, chiropractor, you've got to provide a dental service. At the same time, you have to be a good business owner or business manager, and this is one way you can do that to grow your business. So, Joe, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate this. Everybody listening, I appreciate you. Okay, if you could leave a review for this, Joe and I both appreciate it. Your review makes our podcast world go around. And in the meantime, we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Take care of yourselves. God bless you and your loved ones, and we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.